Han here, Lupasafe. Let's have a look at the scanning for leaked passwords and usernames exposed to criminals. What does this feature do? It scans continuously the dark web, torrent, Telegram, other hacker fora for breached credentials, sensitive data for your client. Think about usernames, passwords, and we also integrate with Have I Been Pwned to extract other metadata. For example, what other data fields were leaked in data breaches. Some of you might be familiar with that part. So how does it work? You first add the domains you want to monitor. Here we have 3 domains that we monitor, and then Lupasafe will search for only these domain names on the dark web. So in order not to breach any personal data laws, we only search for the domain name when we go out on the dark web. On the Lupasafe premise, we also have a vast database that we continuously update with the latest data breaches. And here we can also search for names, for example, but will be restricted to the data you put here. Now, that's how you start. And then if you have a look, you can see here that right now in this environment we don't have any credentials, but I have some historical data. Our CDO has an account that we use here for purposes, and you can see we found Buzz here a few times with different passwords, and that's what's called masked password. We don't want to be the source of losing sensitive data. That's why we obfuscate the passwords we found. You can always request that we share the full password with you, but in principle the password is not being shown fully, because our objective here is to increase the awareness and not to offer any options for reusing breached passwords. So what you can see here, this password starts with a J and asks with a 2, and that's the length, and the second one ends with a Z, and they're tied to the employee Bas Vandenberg in our platform, and you can see the occurrences. So the second password we only found 5 times. That means it's quite a strong password. The other one happened 58 times, which means it is still a strong password. You have to remember that the top passwords in the world are like QWERTY, 123456, or welcome. And these passwords show up millions of times. Now, you might say it's good news we have very few password occurrences, but keep in mind, a criminal can also do a reverse lookup. So instead of searching for, let's say in this case, this domain name, it could search for the password. And that's a way to actually find out if you have other online identities. For example, other email addresses where you use the same password. So you can see these are linked to the employee. We can also find passwords who are not tied to an employee. It could be former employees, for example, or maybe functional email accounts, info address, or a secretary account. These will be shown up here as well. You can also mark them as solved if you have, for example, informed the employee, and that ties into the procedure you might have. So you can always ask, does this business organization have a policy for using the corporate email address? Can you use it anywhere freely, or only for professional use, for example? And if you create accounts, is there a procedure where you mention this? Is there a policy, what kind of data you can share? If an employee onboards or offboards, right? How do you deal with all the passwords? So lots of policy questions are behind these data points. Now, how can this data be used against you as a firm? 2 very obvious ways are phishing attacks, right? The email address has been found, and there might be some also additional data related to it to actually personalize the phishing message. And second, what we call brute force attacks. So this password can be used for an attacker to try to log on to, for example, some of your online services, email accounts, web shops, identity impersonation, misuse of the identity, basically. And this one ends with a number 2, right? I can only guess what the password is. I think I actually know it, but it's easy for a criminal to guess, right? This was 2022. Why don't we try 2024, 2025, 2026? That gives you a quick insight in the lead credentials element of Lupasafe.